really find the missing children are the strangest of all these cases. So the first one, I'm just going to put a disclaimer out there. Nobody under the age of 14 should be listening to this. And then viewer discretion is advised. Not that they're bloody or gory, but they're pretty upsetting because some of them are never found. Some of them are found and others are found dead. So, yeah, or deceased. I should really say that. But thank you for subscribing. If you want, please hit the subscribe button. I do appreciate it, and leave a comment, for it helps beat the YouTube algorithm. And if you enjoy my content, I hope you do, because that's why I'm making it. Because I want to not only relax you, but I hope you find it interesting too. So these are really strange. I'm just gonna start by saying that. And they're mostly boys, even though one of these, a girl does go missing, she is found. So just wanted to kind of summarize this, sum it up. These happen mostly in Oregon, in Northern California, which always fascinates me because I lived in Oregon. And I'll tell you one thing, if anything, there are parts of Oregon that I will never go to that scare me to death. I mean, at least back when I lived there. I mean, the people were very friendly, but I don't know, there was just something about, I don't know. I'm starting to like myself as a redhead, and there's no way my hair would ever grow, so that was just a side note, not that it meant anything. But here we go. So this is about Cody. He went missing for 1986, in the Blue Mountains outside of Wallowa, Oregon. This boy was only 6 years old. Now, it is about 20 miles from Idaho in the Blue Mountains, and it's about almost 3,000 feet high in elevation, so it's not very low. I mean, it's pretty up there. So on April 27th of 86, Cody goes to on a picnic with his family, right? And he and his 10-year-old sister, Carrie, were playing a game in the forest called Explorers. Okay? A game kids made up. Each person goes a different direction. At the approximate time, it was 12:30 p.m. and the family couldn't find Cody. Marcy, Cody's mom, was a lone adult in the group. As Cody's dad was in China on business, the group searched until 2:30 p.m. and then called law enforcement. So they searched for a couple hours, and I think I just want to say this, that when you wait a certain amount of time, if you think somebody's missing, don't look for them yourselves. You don't have the capacity that law enforcement would. You know, anything could, when you're out in the wild, just think of this. It could be a bear, it could be a wild animal, it could be something else, it could be a person. So just remember, not all things in the woods are good, and that if you think your child is missing, call the authorities immediately. That is what I just noticed, that most of these families, not all, most of them, waited 2 or 3 hours because they thought, well, my child's not missing. assume they are. You can always call off the authorities, but you can't call them in if you haven't called them in. You know what I mean? So if you get in what you need quick, I think there's a better chance of finding some of these kids quicker. So there were, within 2 hours of the call for assistance, 2 helicopters. See, this is what I mean by they have the resources. And this is back in 86. So within 2 hours, they had 2 helicopters. 2 helicopters. Bloodhounds on the ground. Several equestrian teams responded and were able to cover huge distances within a short period of time. So, again, lots of help. Throughout the first night, okay, this is a 6-year-old boy, searchers, old boy, yelling and calling for him without any response. Searchers were challenged in their search. The boy, almost immediately after he was reported missing, rain started to fall in the mountains, and he continued through the night, and it continued through the night. So it's pouring rain all night long in the mountains. Now Cody was only 40 pounds and 3 feet 10 inches tall. So he's not a huge kid, and he's only 6. So, you know, his mindset maybe, you know, more advanced than a regular 6-year-old, but still, he's 6. 7:30 a.m. Here comes Cody. He emerges out of the woods. He arrives home at Beverly Hanson's residence on the outskirts of Wallowa. The boy asked for directions to his grandfather's ranch, and the woman stated it was too far away for him to walk, which is really weird. So she invites this little boy inside of her home, and they wait for the sheriff to arrive. On April 30th, 1986, an article in the Beaver Times had the following quote: "A 6-year-old walked overnight at least 18 miles to safety through the wilderness of northeastern Oregon, while searchers on horseback combed the rugged eastern terrain after he got lost on a picnic," unquote. Later in the same article was the following quote: "Cody told his mother he climbed into a tree once during the night, afraid that he was being followed by coyotes," unquote. So very smart kid, because I don't think most 6-year-olds who got lost feel like, I mean, he's obviously not afraid. He gets into a tree because he thinks, okay, well, I'm being followed by something, it might eat me. I'm just gonna climb into a tree. That is a very interesting thought process. And then he says, and then an article in a different newspaper, the Hutchinson News, quote says, his mother and the boy told her, said the boy told her he hid during the night from a motorcycle and a helicopter, unquote. There wasn't a helicopter out there that night. He must have been hallucinating, she said, unquote. I don't know. Cody was taken to the hospital for observation and was found to be in good health, considering his monstrous journey. Now, it's claimed that Cody walked 18 miles through the rugged Blue Mountains in just 15 hours. Think about that. I mean, let's just stop and think about that. 18 miles in 15 hours for a 6-year-old boy who's only 3 feet tall. Almost 4 feet, I guess. 3 feet. But still, I mean, he's 6 years old. So, this is so strange. And he also hid from coyotes, and he hid from helicopters and motorcycles. collapsed in a creek bed. The proximity of where, it's strangely that it's coincidental that these two boys disappeared in close proximity to each other and were able to cover distances that no other child anywhere in the western United States has ever accomplished. Just to gauge the unusual nature of Cody's feat in the book Lost Person Behavior by Robert Coaster on page 135, he outlines distances children typically travel and make recommendations for a child they find 95% of the time in mountainous region. Cody traveled more than four times that, quoted in the book, and accomplished this in just 15 hours. So the fact that he even walked this far in a mountainous area is crazy. The fact that he covered it in record time. My God, I hope Cody, is he born? He's 6. I hope Cody is I wonder where he is now, because he should be in the Olympics. That's crazy. These stories are just it's in between paranormal and I don't know, it's not human, almost like paranormal or alien, or a step in time, out of time, into a time warp. Very strange. All of these stories, even the adults, it gives me the shivers. So this is under suspicious circumstances, and I'll tell you why. Wilson man, he went missing 5/31/1966. South of Cape Junction, Oregon. He was 3 years old. He was with his uncle, and he just disappeared, right? Now, they had moved, the Mann family had 4 children, and they had moved their cabin from Sunland, California 2 months previously. And the family had 4 kids, plus Wilson had a twin brother. So tracking dogs brought to the Russell residence appeared to find the boy's scent and followed to an old logging road that led into the dense timber, but then lost it, which is scary. Quote Snyder, so this is what they said in the Daily Chronicle. There was airplanes, helicopters, 1,000 searchers, bloodhounds, and residents from California all arrived to assist. On June 6th, the article in the Daily Chronicle made the following statement. Quote, Snyder said that the area within a 10-mile radius of the uncle's home had been searched and all the streams and ditches has been dragged or drained. On June 6, 1966, that's 666, that's scary, the Josephine County Sheriff terminated the official search for Wilson Mann. It had been 7 days of intensive effort by nearly the entire Cave Junction community. But here is the strange thing. Cody has never been found. Yet, he's never been reported missing. He's not in the missing persons. You can't find him on missing persons anywhere, right? But there's no account of him ever being found. Now that doesn't mean he wasn't found, but then there's no account of him being in the missing persons book or a website or just anywhere. It's very strange. But here's the thing. There were two boys. Actually, there were 5 boys that went missing on June 2nd, 1966. 2 boys lost in remote areas. 3 others found. So there was 2 boys that were still lost and 3 that were found, so 5 had disappeared total. However, Larry Wilson was the other name, but it's unusual because of the proximity of dates and the fact that neither boy was found. It is a very unusual event when children are not located at all, but to have 2 disappear within 3 days of each other and both not found. Do you think that's a coincidence? I don't know. The other 3, I guess, were just, missing and then found. It had nothing to do with it. But the fact that 2 went missing at the same time and then were never found at all, no remains, nothing, and from 1966. So this author, he says, quote, an extensive archival search failed to find one article describing that Wilson was ever found. Yet he is not listed as missing in any regional or national databases. So, what? Why? That's my question. Did the parents want him to disappear? I don't know. Were the parents brother? Don't you think his twin would want to know what happened to him? I'm sure he does. That would be strange. Unless he wanted to go missing, but I doubt it's 6 years old. Very strange. Very strange. So, let's see, Dennis or Schmidt. 125.58. Now we're in Northern California. He was only 12 years old. Now he was out with the Boy Scouts or troop, whatever, I guess scout, the Boy Scouts. And he was with a bunch of kids. They were at 4,000 feet, so they were pretty high. And it was his first outing with the troop. This is kind of sad, and he was very excited. And so they go to the Mendocino National Forest for a weekend, and the boys are out playing. Captured the Flag. We used to actually play that when I was young, and it was a lot of fun. It was late in the afternoon, and one of the boys realized that Dennis had disappeared. So yes, the boys have been playing in a confined area of the campsite, and a 12-year-old had just vanished. The boys and adults scoured the entire area, yelling Dennis's name, but found and heard nothing. After an hour, that's what I mean. Call immediately. Learn from these disappearances. Even if they're found 2 seconds later, you can always call off. You can always call off the police, but you can't call, like I said, on the police. And go back in time, basically. I'm just reading this because I know what happens at the end. So what happened is, the problem was that Glenn County Sheriff's Office was the primary law enforcement authority that organized the search. And unfortunately, there was such horrible weather, snow and wind and ice and rain, that they couldn't really search for it for almost like 4 days. And then there's 3 feet of snow on the ground. 3 days, yeah. And if you notice that all of the strange and bizarre things that happen, like the unexplainable, it's something about the weather. And I swear there is something in the weather. That energy is powerful, and things happen in the woods. They just do. And there are things we cannot see, that our minds can't even comprehend. It's crazy. were hovering around 30 degrees. So, during the 9-day search for Dennis, rescuers utilized bloodhounds, 2 helicopters, airplanes, equestrians, and hikers. One of the 1,000 volunteer searchers was the head football coach from Chicago State College. While the coach was looking for Dennis, he collapsed and died of a heart attack. A very unfortunate side story to this disappearance, but an example of the extremes that people go to find a lost boy, and also the extremes of the weather and of they were 4,000 feet and he probably went higher, so, that's strenuous on somebody who has a previous heart condition or just, some issues with the heart. So this coach of Chicago State football was looking, or college football team was looking for this child, and he dies of a heart attack. That's so sad. On February 2nd, search worked just over 2 miles from the Boy Scouts when they found Dennis's frozen body lying in a grove of fir trees. That makes no sense to me, that this boy was missing for 9 days, and he was only 2 miles away, and he was 12 years old, so he was older, and he couldn't find his way back. I guess he might have, but do you think he froze that fast? I don't know. Author said, a massive search for additional details on Dennis's body failed to find one description of the boy or how and where he was found. Many of the children that this author writes about over the years that he's been doing the disappeared are playing some kind of game with other kids. The other children never believe anything unusual was happening. The child just vanishes. All he had to do in this author's right, he was only 2 miles away, so if he gets lost quick, even 2 miles away, if he would have just yelled for help, they would have heard him. They were searching at least 2 miles, right? But nobody ever heard any calls. Now, this happened where they had lots of boulders, and apparently where, for some reason, paranormal or other world, there are incidences in places with big boulders with disappearing children. I don't know why. I don't know if it's the energy fields can get caught in the boulders. I don't know. I'd be interested to maybe research that further. That is interesting. But he was found only 2 miles away, frozen to death. And all he had to do was cry for help because they were looking for him. I don't know. Yosemite National Park is the #1 location for massive rocks and boulders, and it also is the #1 location for the number of missing people in any cluster in North America. Now that's really a strange coincidence as well, right? So think about that. Yosemite National Park has the most boulders, and it is the #1 place for missing clusters that people have gone. Missing in North America. That is really strange. Now this is even. So Lee Littlejohn. So this is really strange. He's 18 months old, so he's just over a year, and he is with his cousin, boy, and they're being babysit by their aunt, Mildred Fry, at her home, again. Now, remember I just talked about the conditions of the rain and of the weather, and how sometimes it can bring out interesting energies in the world or in the universe. This has been torrential downpours and snow and very cold temperatures. Why would children bolt out of the house? Now he's only 18 months old, right? The little girl is found. Lloyd comes back with she and her dog. There's no way a two-year-old and an 18-month-old are gonna bolt out at full speed and run. I mean, it would take them 10 minutes to get on the driveway because they get distracted. Think about it. I mean, really, let's think about this. A 2-year-old and a 18-month-old would get sidetracked every 5 seconds walking down with their dogs. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, it had been pouring down rain. It's funny because they come 55 minutes after the sheriff arrived. The little girl comes back, but not the boy. Boy, she was cold, but in good condition, and returned to her residence. So, effort to find Lee continued throughout the night as temperatures were plummeting. In early morning hours, a new search team of 200 arrived at the Fry home, and the search started to expand. And then, all of a sudden, the searchers made a discovery as described in a December 24th article in the Long Beach Independent. Quote, the body of a missing 1.5-year-old boy was found on a wooded ridge 3/4 of a mile from his home 23 hours after he had wandered outside his home in a driving rainstorm. Unquote. Lee was found wearing light trousers and a t-shirt, no shoes or socks. You can hear the concern in the deputy's speech, as later in the same article he explains what they found. Quote, you wouldn't think he could have wandered that far, and it was of a steep hill too, unquote, said Sergeant Dave Sabu, Shasta County Sheriff's Office. So they disappeared at every rainstorm. No 2-year-old and 18-month-old are going to just in freezing cold weather run onto this rainstorm and bolt full speed ahead with their dogs out the door. I mean, it's not going to be in their mind. And then Lee's dog, yes, he returned 6 hours before he was found. Oh, I see. So the dog was found 6 hours before he was found. So the dog must have been, looking for help or lost or something. I mean, that's really strange. Strange too. The sheriff's department stated they believed that Lee died of exposure of the elements. But I don't think he is so sure of this. The author doesn't say it, but he alludes to it just in the way the sheriff spoke and the tone in his voice, that it was hard for him to think that this little child could walk so far. I mean, how far can an 18-month-old walk in 10 minutes? Yet, they would have thought somebody might have taken him, except for Loy had been with him, I guess, for a while. But then she said she didn't really say much. But then he walks up this really steep hill. I mean, there's nothing said that the coroner, they said they were sending the body to the coroner for confirmation. However, the author could not find a single article stating what the coroner's findings were. I don't know. That is very strange. He's like the third or fourth person within a child from January 4th, 2004, January 1st, 1940, and December 23rd, which is what we're talking about. So, all in that same exact area in Redding. snowstorm, and all of these boys did. They left during really bad cold weather. It would make more left during the summer, right? Because they're finding fireflies, or they're just running around. But it's something, I believe, if it's not someone, it's something in the air. There's some kind of energy we can't see, that is either alluring them or taking them and guiding them. I don't know, because this next story is very interesting. Now, the names have been, it's just John Doe, because he wanted to protect the names of the family. But this is a case of a doppelganger, and very interesting. So this is a 3-year-old child, right? He went missing on 10/1/2010, right? So October 2010, John was camping with his family on the banks of a large creek. At approximately 6:30, John disappeared from the campsite. The parents were searching the bordering forest and creek and could not locate the boy. The call was made to local sheriff's office and United States Forest Service for assistance. The area where this occurred has a long history of high strangeness. It's very thick with big trees, great fishing, and lots of wildlife. So here's the thing. So John is found lying in the thickets directly next to one of the primary trails that the searchers had been looking on. At 11:30 p.m., he's returned to his parents without a single scratch, right? And in good condition. Isn't that strange? So this is a very different case, because the parents, John is extremely bright. I mean, he's very, very intelligent for his age, and still is very intelligent. And he remembers when he returned home, he was initially quiet, with the rescuer, but he saw his grandmother, and he started opening up. He said that he had seen her twin while he was missing, the doppelganger, right? She was very polite, but she walked him into a cave or a dungeon, and he used both those words, cave or dungeon. He said that he thought it was actually his grandmother until he saw sparks coming from her head like she was a robot. But then it made him look around the cave, and he realized that there were guns and purses. Like other people have been taken, maybe. Guns and purses. And he said they were of their robots, but they were not moving. How strange is that, right? Now, we've all heard of the doppelganger, right? And that there are spirits in this world that have been said. So the doppelganger is known to basically, look like people we know, and they're used to lure us into the forest, or even look like ourselves, calling ourselves. And a lot of people have run into this. This is not one occurrence. This is more common than we know. I mean, this is crazy, right? This 3-year-old who to this day has never changed his story. It's always the same. He is now older, and his parents say that, he's growing and he's happy and he's very intelligent, maturing rapidly. But to this day, he still remembers it like it was yesterday, that it was his grandmother's twin, until his sparks started coming out of his head. And then the last thing he remembers is that she laid the sticky paper down on the ground and told him to go number 2. And he said, I don't have to go. And that's when he remembered her picking him up and putting him under the bush. And then he remembers being rescued. So he are strange occurrences. Like, beyond belief. Strange.